IFS is powering big enterprise, big ideas, and big change. With technology that enables companies to innovate and grow. With unparalleled industry depth that provides a way to create value by joining the dots. And how companies engage with their customers, empowering their people and use their assets so that they can deliver when it really matters at the moment of service. Touching our lives and improving the way we do business across the world.
From the moment we wake up.
To how we travel.
To the business we do.
And how we care for our world.
IFS is leading the way and powering thousands of the world's most progressive brands. Let us help you be your best.
At the moment of service.
A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Warmly welcome all of you to the inaugural webinar of Rise of Mora, organized by the IEEE Study Branch at the University of Moratuwa, focusing on mastering CB and LinkedIn strategies to get better opportunities in the future industry. Ladies and gentlemen, today marks the start of an exciting webinar series that will equip you with the must-have skills in the future industry. LinkedIn profiles, as you would know, are the simplest form of digital branding. Any potential employer will look into your LinkedIn account in this digital era before any other discussion about you. So a well-known, a well-written CV can give you a significant advantage in the job search process, undoubtedly. It can help you stand out from the crowd and get your foot in the door. This webinar series will help you to write a winning CV and to make a standout digital personal branding footprint in LinkedIn that will impress potential employers, especially in the fields of engineering and information technology, and help you land on your dream job. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we dive into the heart of today's session, allow me to express our sincere gratitude to our invaluable innovation partner, IFS. Their unwavering support has made this enlightening session possible, and we're truly thankful for their collaboration with Rise of Mora 2023. So, now is the time we've been waiting for. It's the time for the sessions conducted by IFS. But before that, let me introduce our esteemed guest speakers. We have with us today Mr. Sharon Fernando, Talent Acquisition Specialist at IFS. And then we have Ms. Oshadi Kamada, Employer Branding Executive at IFS. But that's not all. We're delighted to have two more experts from IFS joining with us this evening, and they are Mr. Shanuka Gunawardana, Manager, Talent Acquisition at IFS, and Ms. Pyaraja Singh, Intern, Employer Branding Specialist at IFS. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please join me in giving a warm and enthusiastic welcome to our esteemed speakers for the day. It's over to you, Mr. Sharon Fernando and Ms. Oshadi Kamada.
Can you give me a heads up if you can see the screen?
Yeah, all good, all good. You can proceed.
Okay, cool. Piara, over to you.
Yes.
So first off, I would like to apologize for not turning the camera on. So at this moment, I'm not able to, but I'll do in a couple of minutes. So yes, thank you for the warm welcome, Kavin. And let me introduce myself to you. So I'm Kiara. As Kavin mentioned, I'm an intern for employee branding. And so I would like to welcome all of you for the link up session done by the IFS team. Yes, moving on.
All right. So thank you, Piara. And we'll start with the LinkedIn strategies. So Sharon will be doing the CV writing part. So I'm Oshadi, as said, and I'm looking into employer branding side of things at IFS. So we'll get started. So before starting, I want to give you a heads up. So this will not be like, a typical session where you will listen to the speaker, but I want you to engage. And I have 7 questions that you can answer. We'll have some fun and learn the way. I'll start with the first question. So what you have to do is type in the chat, and if you want to unmute and speak, you can. So let's move on with, okay. So the first question or the check-in for me is, do you have a LinkedIn profile? If yes, you can put a yes in the chat. And what is your area of study? Is everyone studying computer science, computer engineering, or do we have anyone else who is from a different discipline in engineering? Can I have a few responses, please? Okay, I can see a few answers coming in. Good. Okay. So since I hope most of you have the LinkedIn profile set up, right? So if you do not have, so the session content today will help you to create one. So let's get started. So for the first question is for you. So for those who have a LinkedIn profile, right? What is not a fundamental part of your LinkedIn identity? Now, when you look at a LinkedIn profile, what is it out of these 3 answers? What is the option that you can opt out, or rather you can have it without adding it to your LinkedIn profile? What is the non-mandatory piece of information from here? Is it the about section? Is it the header? Is it the profile image? Or is it the honors and awards? We have one answer, which is profile image. Okay. I'd like to see more answers. Honors and awards. Okay. Right. Honors and awards. Some are saying it's the header. So if we look at it actually, out of the answers from here, it will be, the correct answer will be the honors and awards. Because why? Not everyone will have honors and awards, which is okay. But if you have, you can mention it in your LinkedIn profile. But the section about you and the header, which I will show you in a couple of slides, and the profile image, make sure that you have those in your LinkedIn profile, where people can see who you are and identify you for, what your skills are, your ambitions are, and all that. So the second question from me. So is this true or false? So your LinkedIn profile is like a CV that is available to public, pretty much anybody on LinkedIn. Is it true or false? This one is easy. It's true, right? So it's, your LinkedIn profile is like a CV that is available to public, anyone on LinkedIn. And it's very, very important that you keep it updated and engage on the LinkedIn network so that you can stand out from the rest of your batchmates, or you can be identified by potential employers. So keep it updated, and also add the mandatory information that should be added there. Again, this question: is it true or false? Adding keywords to your LinkedIn profile is key to being discovered by recruiters. Is this true or false? It's true, right? Because you might not know, but for the recruiters in the hiring teams of companies, especially those who are into technical side of things. So for computer engineering undergraduates, this will be very useful, not just for your internships, but also when you progress through your career. Because adding keywords to your LinkedIn profile, we have a for the recruiters, we have a option on LinkedIn called LinkedIn Recruiter, right? So when we look for someone who we looking for a specific expertise. So for an example, if I'm looking for a Java developer who can work on things like with a combination of other technologies, could be REST APIs, it could be Azure, anything like that, right? So there'll be a combination of technical skills that we'll be looking for, right? So adding your keywords like that, Java, any other programming language that you're familiar with, and then it could be non-technical areas as well. So if you are into biomedical engineering or any other aspect of engineering, you would already know, going through the job openings in your particular subject area, that there are keywords that pop up in job advertisements quite commonly, right? So if you do not know what those keywords are, go and have a look at the job openings that are in your domain area. But for the technical undergraduates or the computer engineering undergraduates, I can give you as an example. So adding your technical stack to your LinkedIn profile is very advantageous when it comes to being identified by recruiters. So this being said, it does not say that at an intern level or at a fresh graduate level, the recruiters will reach out to you using the keywords. But as you grow in your career, when you become a senior, a lead, a principal, or someone who is more experienced, this will definitely benefit you. Okay. So the next question, is this true or false? The About section in your LinkedIn profile should be a summary of your interests, skills, goals, and a flavor of your personality. Is it true or false? Right. Okay, yes, it's true. So it should be about you, not your friend, not your neighbor, right? So you can add what your interests are, your skills are, what do you envision to be, at a future date. So this can change. If I ask you, sometimes you might be like, I don't really know where I want to be in 5 years of time, which is perfectly okay, right? That is why I said you need to be updating the LinkedIn profile, because sometimes when you go through your experiences, you might feel like, okay, this particular path is not for me. So I want to change my about section because I'm not really interested in the area that I'm working on right now, right? So which is okay. And add a bit about your personality as well. So for an example, you can add a hobby of yours as a undergraduate still, but when you progress through your career, you can remove that parts as well. But it will be nice for a recruiter or someone from the HR team from a company to see what sort of a person you are. So make it all about you. So the next question. So to identify who you are and what you are best at, what is a good test out of these four? So the first test is 16 personalities test, which essentially divides you into 16 type of people that are out there in the world. And the rest I will not go through because you might pick up the correct answer. But what is a good test to identify who you are and what you are best at? One person says MBTI. Two. Others, what do you think? And I'll tell the link to this. So for you to put up a LinkedIn profile, you should really know who you are, because it's all about yourself, not about your friend, right? So to identify that, to become more self-aware, there are online tests tools that you can use. So these, a few or one maybe of these are helpful for it. So what is it? Anyone who thinks it's Enneagram test or disc? Disc, okay. So I'll tell the right answer. So all first three answers are correct. So the 16 personalities, as I said, it is sort of gives you an indicator on, so it has 16 personalities, but it divides you into, shows you how intuitive you are you a sensory person, are you a thinker, are you a feeler, are you an introvert, extrovert, all that. So these tests are available online as well for free. So you can go and test it out. And when you answer these tests, make sure you are being honest. And the results, if you take it, one time this year and one time next year, the results might vary as well, which is okay, because we are all humans and we can change. So that is there. And the Enneagram test, again, this test divides people into 9 types. So for an example, I fall into the category of challenger. So you can go and explore, which is very interesting. And the DISC personality test, again, this is used at IFS as well. So this divides people, or rather spots people in how dominant they are, how influential they are, how steady they are, and also how compliant they are. And Eisenhower matrix is not a tool to identify who you are and what your skills are. It's a tool to, prioritize your work according to urgency and importance. So all the three tests are correct. First answers are correct. And that being said, there's no I'm the best person, type of result in any of these tests. Any personality is a good personality. It just helps you to identify what are the things that you are best at, and maybe what are the common traits that you have that will be helpful for you to thrive in your career, right? So the next question. So out of the things that you can do as a university student on LinkedIn, what is not a good way to be seen by the industry experts? Is it connecting with industry experts? Is it being active and posting interesting content on LinkedIn? Is it reaching out on social platforms other than on LinkedIn? Or is it asking questions from experts on LinkedIn? What do you think is not a good way to be engaged as a university student? Let's say not on LinkedIn, but in general. What do you think is the answer? No answers? 3, 3. Okay, right, correct. So you can connect with industry experts who are in the same field as yours. And if you are not very sure on which industry you want to go to, that's okay. Connecting with others in other industries that you are looking for as well, just that you see what sort of an exposure they get, what sort of opportunities they have in their teams, and so on. So make sure to connect with industry experts and see what they are doing, right? So that's a very good thing you can do as an undergraduate. Being active and posting interesting content, yes, it's good to do that. It does not mean that you have to post every day, all day, but it's rather when you get engaged in an event, maybe that is relevant to your area of expertise, or like your sub study area, right? Go and post about it. Let's say, since we have the organizing committee from IEEE student section, right? So you can, if you were a part of the organizing committee, you can go and post on a LinkedIn profile that you were a part of it, right? If you were in the audience, you can go and post that you were a part of this particular initiative done by such and such person, and you what you learned from it, right? Because since you connect with also the industry experts, it's a good way to be seen. And personally, for me, I notice when students put out content like this, and it's very refreshing to see. It's very um how to say it, it's very, like, I feel really happy when I see students like that who are very engaged and who learn something out of the opportunities that they have, right? So it's a good way to be noticed by recruiters or the industry experts that are there in your field. So make sure to do that. And the third answer is the not good way, right? To be seen as a university student, because don't go and overdo it. This is something that we come across as the talent acquisition team at IFS. So some even not just undergraduates, some candidates, they try to reach out on different platforms other than on LinkedIn. And even if it's someone you really really want to follow, right? Let's say you want to connect with someone, a CEO of a company that you are very interested in, try not to go and message them on other platforms other than in LinkedIn, because it is not something that is very professional to do. But on LinkedIn, you can connect with anyone. And when you communicate on LinkedIn, make sure to communicate professionally as well. Don't go and casually talk to them. So give the respect that is due for them, and also take the best for you, right? And also asking questions from experts on LinkedIn. This is something that not a lot of students do. But if you are really curious about things that happen in a particular company, or like technologies that a particular company is using, whatever that is, you can go and ask questions from experts, right? So it is up to them to answer it or not, but it will always add value to you. It will always give knowledge to you if you go and ask questions, and make use of it, because that is not something that we see undergraduates doing very often, right? So this is the last question from me to you. A good way to show your credibility as a person on LinkedIn. So what is it? Is the first answer adding your honors and awards to the profile? Is it that one? Or is it reaching out to professionals and asking them to refer you to open job opportunities? Or is it getting endorsed by your lecturers, teammates, supervisors in the recommendations section on LinkedIn? What is it? Okay, so we have different answers coming in. So it's actually um, good ways. We have have two good ways here. So the first one, adding honors and awards to the profile, is something that you can do if you have any. And the third answer, getting endorsed by your lecturers, teammates, supervisors, is also a good one. But the trick here is that don't go and ask all your batchmates to go and endorse you, right? Which will make no sense. But if you have lecturers who can really tell a potential employer when they look at your profile, this particular student is very good at this particular task, or they are a best performing academic student. So likewise, if you have any lecturers who can recommend you, that is a good way to be endorsed at early in your career. And the teammates here, if you have done any projects with your university's friends, or maybe you are a part of another association, so maybe you are a part of IEEE, maybe you are a part of ISEC, Rotaract, whatever that is. If you're a part of a team that wanted to do something and achieved a result, you can ask them to endorse you as well. And the supervisors, if you get to work somewhere before you finish the period of employment there, you can politely ask them to recommend you on LinkedIn as well, so that it will be a testament for your credibility as a person for the future days to come. Right, so those things are good ways to show your credibility. But the second answer, which is reaching out to professionals and asking them to refer you for their openings, is not something that is really encouraged unless you know that person, at a personal level, or have worked with them before. Because that happens to us as well. So when strangers reach out to us and ask to refer them to job opportunities at the company, it's a bit tricky one, because as a person from a company where there's a referral program, right? So if there's a referral program, the objective of it is for the existing company employees to refer people that they know, that can be trusted and that they have worked with mostly, right? But if you go to a complete stranger on LinkedIn and ask them to refer you to opening that is there, it will not be the best approach that you can take as a person who is credible, right? So the questions are over, and thank you for the answers. But I just wanted to take you through a few examples on how you can tweak your LinkedIn profile. So don't do these things. So if you look at this slide, there are three snapshots of a LinkedIn profile, right? So if you look at the first snapshot or the picture that is there, can you identify what has gone wrong there? A quick one, quick question. Okay, so since we have limited time, I'll give the answer. So the cover image, if you look at the first image, it's not there. So make sure that you have a good cover image which can showcase your interested area, or if you become a part of a company. So for an example, at IFS, we have a cover image curated for those who are a part of IFS team. So you can use those as well. Right, and in the second picture that is in the middle of the slide, what has gone wrong there is the profile picture. So if you see, you can't really see that person's face. So the objective of having a LinkedIn profile is that, when someone looks at your profile, they are able to identify you, right? So make sure you're using a profile image that is professional, and also when someone looks at it, they should be able to identify you as you. So make sure to make your profile photo proper. And in the third picture, which is towards the right side, the person's profile image is one that she has taken during her childhood, which is not the best option that you can use when it comes to your LinkedIn profile. So don't do these things. And if I am to show you a few good profiles, right? One good profile, let's say. So we have an intern called Sairo. So his profile image, the cover image, if you see the header is what he has mentioned as software engineer intern at IFS and undergraduate athlete. And the about section, which is not visible here, um, also lists down his values, his ambitions, and passions. So if you have a look at it, if you look at this profile, it looks very put together, right? So that's the impression that you want to create when someone looks at your LinkedIn profile. So moving on, the next tip, as I said before, is engage. So when you go to an event, if you are a part of something, that can be something that is voluntary as well, not necessarily related to your study area. Make sure to go and put up a post out there, tell what you learned out of it, and be authentic as well. So when you engage, post content on LinkedIn, you can use emojis and things like that, which is okay because you're human, right? And you can be a bit funny sometimes. It's all right. Try and see. Trial and error makes you stronger, right? So, and also when it comes to experience, you might not have a lot of work experience as an undergraduate, right? But if you are starting, you might already have done some other work that you might think which is very irrelevant. So for an example, I know you guys stay at home after A levels. So during that period, you might have done something that is different to your work um, area or the study area, right? But feel free to mention that it is a work experience and it's a valid experience, even though it might not be in engineering field. It would give an indicator to the employer that you have done something, right? Every experience is a learning experience, so you have something gained from that experience. That is one. And also, if you are a part of any students associations at the university, and if you have done any roles there, feel free to add that as well. And it shows that you have gained experience working with people, achieving goals and things like that. And if you are especially a computer engineering student, you can mention the projects that you have worked in, and you can tag the other students who you work with as well. And here, make sure to mention the technical areas that you touched upon, like the programming language, to other technologies that you work with, which can highlight what sort of an exposure that you had doing those projects. And volunteering. So you don't have to always think about okay, I don't have any work experience that I have done prior, I am not a part of any student organization, but there might be things that you have volunteered in. Maybe you were a part of the volunteers at Embark, right? Those who are into animal welfare and stuff. So those things also count, because it helps you to stand out from the rest of your fellow batchmates. And it says a bit about you, what you are interested in. So make sure to add those experiences in the volunteering section as well. And last but not least, show what you are passionate about. And one good way to show this is by showcasing your certifications. So for you, there are enough and more online certifications available for free. It could be that you have done a few paid as well. So whatever that is, make sure that you add the certifications with their credentials, so that a person who is looking at your profile, if you say, I'm really into DevOps, let's say, right? If you have done any online courses, certifications related to that, the employer or the recruiter will know that you are really walking the talk, right? It's not just that you are just telling that you are passionate about DevOps, but you have done something, gone to an extra mile to explore your passion. Okay. So that is what I have for you from the LinkedIn strategies part. But I wanted to wrap things up by saying just make sure it is your LinkedIn profile, but not someone else's, because all of you are unique, and you have to take out or like show that to your potential employer. Not all of you are, equal. Each of you have different strengths, weaknesses, things that you can do, where you fit, right? But just make sure you give out that message clearly and make it authentic as well. Don't include things that you are not good at. It's okay to mention things that you're not really confident in, but you have done or touched upon. But if you have something that you are not a person who has had exposure, let's say you mention a project where you really did not do any part, right? Do not go and include those. So make it authentic and make it unique, and above all, make it yours, right? So with that, I'll hand over the session to Sharon.
Right. Thank you, Oshadi, and very good evening to all the students. Hope I am audible. Yeah. Right. After that insightful discussion by Oshadi on how to uh, master your LinkedIn profile and how to basically engage and keep it attractive to recruiters and other companies, we move on to the topic on how you can master your CV. This is basically a LinkedIn profile is basically an open CV where it is publicly viewable to all. Whereas it's a bit personalized, and it's on selected basis. You share it with other with companies and of course recruiters. So moving on to the next slide, please. Yeah, so what is a CV? I'm sure if you just search, have a quick Google search, you will get ample of definitions. But what I want to pinpoint is it's a personal marketing tool, right? So it's a tool where you market yourself on your experience, on your qualifications, on your skills, on your um, uh, expertise. Yeah. So it's a personal marketing tool, and it has to be unique to yourself, where you can reach out to companies and of course the recruiters, where you think that they'll be attracted to your CV and find the suitable for the vacancies which they have. Moving on. Right, choosing a CV template. So this is a very common question which we come across by undergraduate students on what kind of templates you choose for a perfect CV. So I have a quick question. Oshi, if you can move on, please. Yeah, so in the screen, we have 3 templates, right? Different colors with profile pictures, without profile pictures, a detailed one, but another one with just bullet points. So can you just tell me in chat, what do you think is your preference, or what do you think is the best template out of the 3? Either the first one, second one, or the third one. Okay. Interesting. We have 1 and 2, no 3 so far. Right. Okay. So what I want to emphasize here is that, different people will have different preferences, right? There is no right or wrong template for a CV. It's just your preference and what you think is perceived by others as a good CV. So from the answers, you can see, there are different options. 1 and 2, we have ample. 3, maybe because of the color, of course. But then there is no, to repeat my point, there is no right or wrong template. You can stick to a template which you think is, which is enough, or which is understandable to anyone who sees, and which is also attractive enough. Yeah, moving on. Right. So what to include in your CV? Of course, the standard stuff we come across, but an interesting thing which we see here is that, some of y'all might be the first time you all make a CV. So I'll just share an experience which I came across recently. So undergraduates like y'all, what happened is that, we had a internship opportunity and we got Temple of undergraduate CVs. And we saw a couple of CVs which was identical to each other. We had two CVs. It was identical to each other, where from the template to the colors used to the objective which is mentioned in the CV to the reference, all that was same, right? Perfectly same, similar to each other. Only thing was that the profile picture and the contact details and the personal details was different. So what I would like to say about that is, it's not the correct way of, writing down a CV and sending it across to different companies to approach, right? So like I mentioned previously, it's a personal marketing tool. A CV is a personal marketing tool that should be unique to yourself. So when you're including personal details, so if you're first talking about your personal details, that is your name, your professional title, and your contact details. So when you're including these details, make sure when you're including your name, you don't have to include your full name, right? So as Sri Lankans, we tend to come across people with, 4 to 5 parts of the names, right? So to mention all that in a CV is not necessary. So keep it concise and just include your first name and your surname. And I would suggest you to, to highlight or to underline the first name or your calling name, your preferred calling name, so that the company or the recruiter or the hiring manager will know on the first call on how to address you, right? So professional title, when you say professional title, it shows that what kind of role you're looking for, right? What you're interested in, what field you want to grow your career in. So when you mention that, it gives a little bit of idea on what the candidate's expectation is in terms of what they are looking out for a role. When you're mentioning the location, it doesn't necessarily have to be your exact home address, right? So you can just mention your town or your district and the country. Phone number, straightforward. Suggest you to mention at least 2 numbers so that if one is not reachable, we can try out the other number. Email. So one other funny thing about email is that, emails are usually created when we were at a very young age, right? So we used to mention, we used to keep some funny and, unique email addresses like, coolboy@gmail.com and, something like that. So when you're using your email address at a professional level at a CV, I suggest you to, relook at your email address. Ideally, keep it your first name and your last name at gmail.com, at yahoo.com, at Outlook or whatever, right? So keep these things in mind when you're creating the personal details and the contact details part of your CV. Moving on, Ocean. Right. So after that, we come on to the personal profile when you're creating your CV. Some would say this might not be mandatory, but this just shows as freshers mostly, it just shows on what your passion is to the company and to the recruiters and to the hiring managers, so that they can identify what kind of a fit you are to the organization itself. So some things which you can cover under the personal profile part of the CV: who you are, basically what kind of background you had, and what you can offer to the company, what kind of skills you bring, and what kind of knowledge you have, all those details, and what your career goals are. So like I mentioned previously also, aligning with the job title, you can just mention a small part of a part of your personal profile, mentioning your career goals as well. Moving on. Right. Sorry. So when you include your experience and employment history, this might not be relevant to you all at this moment, but like Oshi also mentioned previously, when you're moving forward in your career, just keep these things in mind. So when you're mentioning the experience and employment history, including in your CV, you have to mention these key things, right? So that person who is reviewing your CV will have a clear understanding on what you have done in your previous job, right? So firstly, you have to mention the name of the company and the title. When I say the title, it's the designation, right? And the start and the end date, basically from which period to which period you have been working in that company. And the key responsibilities, you don't have to go on pages and pages of the responsibilities, what you did day to day in that role, but it's just the key responsibilities, right? 3 to 4 points, the main points which which you did on a day-to-day basis in that particular role, and if any there is any key achievements or projects or any certifications you have obtained throughout that career, you can mention those as well, right? So this will make you this will make the person who is reviewing your CV understand on what kind of role you have, what kind of experience you have gained, and also what kind of achievements and responsibilities you have held throughout your career. Moving on. Right. So education and qualifications, which is more relevant to you all. When including the education and qualification details in the CV, you have to mention your institute name, right? So the university name, of course, and from which year to which year you have completed, or from which year you have started and which we have completed your degree program has to be mentioned clearly. And of course, the degree program itself, what program you have completed and what grade you have obtained, the GPA, all those details can be mentioned in precise, right? So again, you don't have to go into details saying that, you know, these modules are covered, these areas of study was covered. At the point of sending out a CV, it's not necessary. If it is required, you'll be getting a call from the recruiter or from the hiring manager asking for those further details. But when sending out a CV, it's not required. You can just mention on what the exact qualification was, what the institute or university was, and from which year to which year you completed this. Right, moving on. Right. So, like previously, also Oshri mentioned in your mentioning these points in your LinkedIn profile, it is also essential to mention the special awards or the projects you have come across or which you have obtained during either in your career or in your university life in your CV, so that the people who review your CV will have a clear understanding of what projects you have been involved in, or special awards which you have obtained, which will give a cutting edge, a distinct advantage over other candidates when they review their applications. Next slide, please. Right. So things to avoid in a CV, I have come across these points more often. So firstly, emphasizing, not to exaggerate and, give up false information in your CV. It's not ethical and it's not right. Just because you want to get attracted to a company, you don't have to, mention false information and exaggerate something which you have not come across, which you have not gained, or which you don't have any experience or expertise in. You can mention these points saying that you are passionate in learning or you would like to get the experience, but not saying that that you have the experience, right? Lack of clarity. So it's just straightforward. When you're writing a CV, you should not, mention points which is not clear enough to a person who is reading it, right? It has to be It has to be to the point where once you read that detail, it's clear to them, right? Incomplete contact details. So yeah, make sure whether you mention anything or not, the contact details are mentioned in the CV, because if anything else is missed, of course, we can quickly give you a call and get the details. But if the contact details itself is not there, we don't have a way of reaching out to you. So the name, the mobile or the contact number, the email address is the three key things in a CV. So make sure when you're mentioning the contact details also, double check whether the mobile number given is correct. It's actually your number. And if you're giving an extra number, the second number, make sure that is also available with yourself. So including confidential information. So this is more relevant to experienced candidates where they tend to put up their current salary or their current performance ranking in their current organization. But not limiting to that itself, there can be other confidential information also, or maybe even not very relevant information in a application which you are looking for. Maybe the marital status or things like that. It's not very required, and sometimes it can be also confidential. So you can avoid those things in your capturing details in a CV. And finally, it is advisable not to go to an excessive length when you are creating a CV. There is no right amount of pages when you are creating a CV, but when you're mentioning maybe your previous job responsibilities or your maybe your the modules you have covered in your degree program, so those things you don't have to go to a very excessive length where you go on pages and pages and pages of those details, because as recruiters or as hiring managers, we go through maybe 50 to 100 CVs per day, and then we don't actually have time to go through each and every point. So we like it very concise and very to the point. So best is not to go into excessive length. Keep it compact and keep it to the point with the clear picture. Moving on. Right, formatting and spacing guidelines. So which is very common, but since I have come across applications and CVs with these issues, I want to pinpoint it. So when you're using font type, size, and page margin, I would like you to use a font type which is professional, right? First thing is it has to be professional. And next is the font type has to be consistent throughout the CV itself, right? So one part of the CV, you use one font type, another part of the CV, you use a different font type, which is not correct, right? Which is not very nice, So those things, you might think that it's not a big deal, but when you are going through a CV, we tend to judge, these small things, right? So I would suggest, advise you to keep one font type, and then select a professional font type, and also stick to one font size, and maybe heading and description can be with two different font size, but keep it in uniform to all points throughout the CV, and then keep a respectable page margin where you can leave things, if there is anything to be added in future, or if you're getting a printout or anything like that, if you want to file things, those things, you just keep an extra attention to detail, when you're creating a CV. Again, avoid big messy paragraphs when you're including description about your experience or your qualifications. Suggest it's mentioned in the bullet points rather than big paragraphs, right? Bullet points always, it's easier to read and it's easier to understand rather than going through a big paragraph and reading it over and over again to understand for us. So avoid big messy paragraphs and keep the points into, to the direct bullet points. Proofreading and consistency, definitely it has to be done. So one thing is proofreading. Once you create a CV, proofreading, suggestion is to not, for you itself to do the proofreading. Maybe you can give it to some other person so that just the breadth set of eyes goes through the CV from the top to bottom. Someone you can, trust, and you can get a valuable feedback from them. So once you create the CV, let someone else go through from top to bottom and go through that, get the proofreading done and get the feedback. Consistency, like I previously mentioned, all those things on font size, font type, the color, the font color, all those things has to be consistent throughout the CV. It doesn't, it's not nice when it's, different from one part to the other. Keep the colors conventional. Since you all came across the example, no one has picked the CV template number 3 because of the color, I assume. So you all get a pretty good idea, right? So you all use, conventional colors, light colors, black and white, light blue. So those colors are very nice and very attractive, right? Rather than, it's not, shoving into your face with, bright yellow and bright green and bright red. So just keep those things also in mind when you're, creating a CV next time. finally, another funny incident, we get CVs with different file names. We get, say, for an example, we get my CV second draft, the best one within brackets. So those things, avoid those things. When you're done creating a CV, rename the file to your name, right? Your first name and the last name. And then when you're sending it out to companies, hiring managers, recruiters, send it out with that renamed file, right? A PDF document. Also, if you're creating a Word document, suggest you to convert it to PDF document before you send it out to companies. So when one thing is that, convert it to PDF document, and then the PDF document has to be renamed to your name, your first name and the last name. And you maybe include a point to say that it's a CV. Not to say that, my second draft, the best one, anything like that. Yeah, that's not nice, right? Moving on. Do we have a question? I just saw a raise of hand. I think it's a mistake. But if you do have a question, just let me know in the chat, or maybe raise your hand again. Quickly going through the tips to stand out from the rest. Like I mentioned, we get 50 to 100 CVs per day to review. So a couple of quick tips to stand out from the rest of the candidates. Well, first thing is tailor your CV for each job, right? So previously when we talked about LinkedIn, it's an open CV, right? You can't tailor it to specific jobs and specific companies and specific persons, specific hiring managers or recruiters. But when you're sending out CVs, when you're creating CVs, you can do that. You can make it unique to specific company, specific job, right? So suggestion again here is to tailor your CV for each job. And then moving on, something similar, something adding to that, include keywords, which was also spoken previously. So why here keywords is essential is, right, I will come to that question again. Why we mention here that the keywords is essential is, so in IFS, we have a application tracking system, which is called ATS. It's called Smart Recruiters, where your keywords get picked up when you upload a CV, your keywords get picked up and it gets matched to the job description, which we have, right? So most companies have technologies like this, and they give up a score based on the job description and also the CV which you have uploaded to the system. So it gives a score, right, out of 100 score, and then it's easier for us to go to those CVs which has a higher score. So when you do a small research of the company, of the tech stacks they use, of the languages they use, you can, and if you have that knowledge in those languages, you can just highlight them in your CV, including those keywords, and make it unique to that particular company and particular technologies they use, and also particular languages they use, right? So once you do this, this gives an additional it gives an additional advantage to stand out from the rest, right? Also, it's nice to have a professional design. We are not talking about a template here, right? We are talking about a design where I'll cover this professional design part in another slide. And then quantify achievements. So when you have achievements, this also will be more relevant when you're growing through your career, right? And once you come into an experience level where you have had achievements, you can quantify them, right? So if you have come up with any projects which you have completed worth value of this much, you can mention those, which will give an additional, to show that, this much value of project has been done or completed by you. And then showcase results, something similar to quantify achievements, shows that, this can be very relevant to you all. You all can mention that, successfully completed projects, successfully completed voluntary programs, all those things, you can mention that which has a result and which has an impact going forward, which will make you stand out from the rest, right? Moving on. Right. So all these things we have covered. Question is how? Where do you think you can create CVs? previously it was very straightforward. You go to a Word document, you open a Word document, you create a CV template, and you just create. But now in the day of age, I'm sure most of you all have used this. But if you all have not, there are lots and lots of free CV creating tools online, and from those, I would suggest you these few, which I have personally used and which is very easy to use as well. So CV creating tools like Canva, Novo Resume, CV Maker, Indeed Resume Builder, and Resume Genius are very. They have preset of templates, preset of designs. So the previous in the previous slide we spoke about the design, right? So these online sites, the free online sites, have multiple designs where you can preset designs where you can select and edit with your personal details and also your relevant experience and exposure and qualifications. So you have ample of opportunities in online. Yeah, you all would have used different tools as well. Not limiting to this, I'm not limiting to this, but from my personal experience, these are the ones which is free, and also it's very easy to use. Basically, you don't have to go through a tutorial to understand on what you need to do. You can just quickly go to the website, and if you don't have any even previous experience on what to do, you will just get these things done easily. So adding on to that, if you already have a CV in hand, a CV which was previously made through Word document or something like that, there are options in these CV builders also where you can upload your existing CV, which will pick on those details, and you can further edit on the details which you want to update as well. Also, they have features like corrective actions. If they think that if the website thinks that this can be improved in a different in a better way, those suggestions also will be mentioned in the while you create the CV. So nice things to have. Of course, you all can use different things like ChatGPT, words in different keywords which you can use. You can just prompt a question from ChatGPT to ask what are the best keywords to use, what are the attractive words to use. So it's in your hands, right? It's not the previously very straightforward CV which you make with the standard set of points through a Word document, right? You have ample of opportunities, you have ample of tools, it's free, and you can move on with that. Next slide, please. Right. So before we go to the quiz, we have questions. Right. So colors, black and white. Yeah. So again, colors. It's your personal preference, right? We don't actually, select CVs with colored CVs and reject black and white CVs. Nothing like that. It's your personal preference. If you have the time and if you think that it's essential and if you think that it will make it more attractive, you can use colors, but it's not mandatory. You can use a black and white as well. I mean, it's your preference again. Is it a good thing to include my experience on something different from the job I'm applying? Yes, definitely. Like you have mentioned, like Oshadi mentioned, it is advisable to mention your non-related experience in LinkedIn. You can also mention the non-related experience in a CV, but you don't have to go into detail, right? You don't have to go into detail on what you did then, what was your day-to-day task and all those things. You don't have to go into detail because it's not relevant. But you can mention that you have worked from this period to this period and that you have this many years of corporate experience, even though it's not relevant. It's not related. Yeah. Yes, definitely we can mention the currently ongoing projects. So again, you can. So it has to be precise, right? It has to be correctly conveyed to the audience, saying that this project is currently ongoing, and maybe you can also mention the expected target date of closure. Important to give the A-level and O-level results. Not important, not mandatory. Definitely not mandatory. But it's nice to give. Nice to have those details in a CV. But again, you don't have to specifically mention each subject by subject. This was my result, this was my result. Maybe if you got 2 A's and a B for A levels, you can mention in such way. And for O levels, if you get 5 A's and 4 B's, something like that. In a nutshell, you got this result from this school, from this period. Those details are more than sufficient. Yeah, online certification courses, yes, definitely. If it is relevant to the field, what you're doing, and if you think that will give a added advantage when you're applying for jobs, and if it is relevant to the position which you're applying, definitely you have to add those details. Again, those are things which will give you an added advantage over other candidates. Right. So we have a quick quiz with 5 questions, and we'll have a separate time also specific for questions and answers. Maybe we can add those. We can cater to your questions at that point. But now coming back to the quiz. So first question, just to keep us interactive enough, what do you think is the correct answer? How long should your CV be? 1 page, 2 page, or as long as you want it to be? A, B, or C? Okay. Anyone else? Okay. 1B, 3, right? 1 great, 2 okay, okay. A is good, B and is also not a problem, right? Okay. Right. So again, there is no correct, there is no right or wrong answer here. 1 page can be fine for someone, 2 pages can be fine for someone, but actually it's as long as you want it to be, right? Because when you grow in your career, there can be instances where you have ample of experience, 10 plus, 15 plus experience, where you can't fit those experience in 1 or 2 pages, where you tend to go for maybe 2 or 3 or more pages. So it's just your personal preference. If you think you can fit in all those details in a 1 page, perfectly fine. If you think you have to go for 2 pages, perfectly fine. And if you think you want to go for more than 2 pages, perfectly fine, right? But having said that, you have to understand that, you don't have to mention unnecessary details in the CV just to make it lengthy and just to make it more than 1 page. If you think that your experience, your qualifications, your personal profile can be fit into a 1 page, it's perfectly fine, right? Next question, please. Mandatory piece of information from below. Is it the contact detail, O-level result, or the NIC number? A, B, or C? Right, awesome. Yeah, so we spoke about this. Mandatory detail is definitely the contact information. Because if you don't mention the O-level result or the NIC number, when we have the contact detail, we can quickly call you and get those details. Right, so yeah, contact details is the mandatory piece of information. Moving on. Okay, now we're asking about the non-mandatory piece of information. Is it the degree, is it the referee, or the email address? A, B, or C? Right. Okay, great. Yeah, so referees, I mean, in this day and age, it's required, but it's not mandatory, because one thing about non-related referees mentioning the CV is we don't require at the first point of screening the CV, right? We need this data only if you have been selected from the interview process, and at the time of onboarding only we need this non-related referee detail. So other details, of course, will be required at the time of reviewing the CV. So degree, email address, mobile number, all those details is very essential at the time of reviewing the CV. Reference is a important information, but not at the time of reviewing the CV. So you don't have to necessarily include in the CV. Right, next question, please. What helps an interviewer to get to know your technical know-how? Is it your project information you are a part of, or a list of programming languages you have heard of, or an in detail O-level and A-level exam results, A, B, or C? Right, superb. So it's A, correct, exactly, project information you were a part of. So something interesting about B is a list of programming languages you have heard of, right? So, but if you have actually worked on those programming languages, then it will be the point where you can say that the interviewer, from that point only the interviewer will get to know your technical know-how. But just because you have heard a programming language, it is not helpful for the interviewer on that. So A, project information you were a part of is the correct answer. Last question. Right, where do CVs get accumulated when you apply through the career portal? So CV is personal information, right? It's a confidential document, and certain times candidates might worry where it gets ended up, right? Once you share a CV. So what do you think? Where does it get ended up when you apply? When you apply for a job vacancy through the career portal, is it in the shared drive, application tracking system, ATS, which we talked about previously, or in the email box of the interviewer? A, B, or C, right? Okay, interesting. Shared drive, right? C, in the email box of the interviewer, right? Okay. Okay, interestingly, it's not A or not C also. It's B, the application tracking system, which I spoke about previously, right? So which we use, what we use is called Smart Recruiters. And all applications, all candidates who want to apply to IFS, their applications get saved in the application tracking system. It's not on shared drive or it's not on individual email boxes of the interviewer. So this is where all CVs get accumulated, and this is where all interviewers, all hiring managers, all recruiters will have access to those CVs. So it has, just to add more, a couple of things, since we spoke about the confidentiality, it has access to only to those respective individuals. It's not accessible to across the organization. So it's in safe hands. Don't worry about it. Your personal information is in safe hands. And it's definitely not on a shared drive where most staff has access to. It's on the application tracking system, ATS. Right. So I think that is it, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Oshidi, over to you.
All right. So the session is almost over. But before we go into the questions, you can give the feedback for the session as well. So choose link up as the program option that is there. But till you submit the feedback, we can have questions that you have as well. So you can put in the chat so we can see what is there and we can pick it up. But for the feedback, you can start giving it. It's not mandatory. If you feel like there's something good or there's something that should be improved, we'd be glad to hear that. Yeah, but in the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat. Sharon, I think you have a question already.
Yeah, so non-technical skills like leadership skills considered in a CV screening. More oftenly not, because at your level, right, at an undergraduate level, when we are looking for internships or at the entry-level positions, soft skills are necessary, but specifically when you talk about leadership skills, it's not much relevant to the job. So soft skills which are relevant to the job, if you mention that, those will be very advantageous for you. Not specifically leadership skills or anything, just because those things are like highly valued, and if it is not relevant to the job role which you're applying to, it can go neglected, right? So soft skills which are relevant to the job role which you're applying will be advantageous. So those things you can mention in the CV.
And I think we can add on to that. So when you mention skills like communication skills, I mean, it does not make sense to add that into a CV, right? Because at the interview stage and through the CV, we can see how well you can communicate, things like that. So don't go and add things that are in that particular area, that things that don't make sense when you add onto the CV. But we have seen students sending in CVs with that. There's another question. Yeah, Sharon, do you want to take it up?
Yeah, I think I took this question previously. Yeah, it's always a good thing to add all your corporate experience or your private freelancing experience in a CV. But when you're mentioning those things, if it is not relevant to the job, you don't have to go into detail about it, right? So you can just mention that you have this experience from this particular organization, or even a freelance from this particular year to this particular year, that you have worked on this particular technologies. Those things you can mention, but you don't have to go into detail saying that, this is what I did and this is what I completed, and all those details is not necessary if it is not relevant to the job. So mentioning the organization, the year, and what you did on one line is more than sufficient if it is not relevant to the job which you're applying for.
Any more questions?
I have a direct question. I don't think you all can see or
No,
can
can't.
access it. So a question is asked on mentioning certificates that we have achieved, or is it sufficient only if it is mentioned in LinkedIn? Mention CV. How do we do that? So again, since the CV is a personalized tool, right? Since you can make it unique to different types of at the different level, you can mention the certifications or any other short-term certificate courses which you have completed. You think they'll be relevant if it is relevant to your role which you're applying for. You can mention them. If it is not relevant, and if the interviewers want to have a look at it, you can always direct them to ask them to look at the LinkedIn profile. Anyways, it will be done. But then if it is relevant to the job role which you're applying, please include them, because it will definitely be an advantage.
All right. If we don't have any more questions, I think we can hand it over to the organizing committee.
Yes, thank you very much. So, guys, by any chance, do we have any more questions? If you do, we can go for them. Just feel free, guys, to unmute yourselves and speak up. We're talking about professional growth. So yeah, all right. Looks like we don't have any more questions. Now, thank you very much, Mr. Sharon and Ms. Oshadi. The session was insightful, impactful, and that was, and even personally, there were a lot of stuff for me to get to know from the sessions you guys conducted. Thank you very much. Hats off to you. And yeah, so before we wind up, we have a small token of appreciation for you. It's a digital token of appreciation. And first, we have our token of appreciation presented to Mr. Sharon Fernando. Can we all have a virtual round of applause? Everybody? Thank you very much. All right. And then we have our token of appreciation to Ms. Oshadi Kamata. Thank you very much for your insightful session. Okay. And now we're gonna move on to take a group photo, because it is the moments that we can reminisce later. This has been an insightful session. We learned a lot of things out of it. Sometime later in our lives, we can recall the memories that we gained from this session. So You all can turn on our cameras and then we can go for the group photo. I've also shared the virtual background in the chat box. Come on, guys, it's better if everybody can have the virtual background. All right, guys, thank you very much. And now we can move on to the vote of thanks, but it has been a very interesting session and we must be thankful for the organizing committee and everybody who worked tirelessly for this event. Let me introduce to you the project coach person, Amavira Singha, and she will deliver the vote of thanks. It's over to you.
Thank you, and a very good evening to all of you. And so I hope you're all feeling as inspired as I am after this enlightening session. So we had the privilege of gaining valuable insights from our distinguished speakers, Mr. Sharon Fernando and Ms. Oshadi Kamada, who have shared their expertise on mastering CV and LinkedIn strategies, which are undoubtedly beneficial for our professional journeys. And a big thank goes to our innovation partner, IFS, for making this webinar possible. And also, I would like to take a moment to thank our organizing committee and volunteers because your hard work and commitment have been the driving force behind the success of this event. And last but not least, I would like to thank each and every one of you for being a part of this session because your active participation and engagement is what makes this event so special. And we hope you gained so new knowledge and insights that will help you to excel in this professional endeavors. And as we conclude this session, I encourage you to stay connected with us and keep an eye out for our future webinar sessions. And we look forward to continuing this journey of growth and learning with you guys together. So thank you once again and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Emma. And that marks the conclusion of today's session. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Team IFS. It's been wonderful having you. And we've had a lot of participants throughout the session. Thank you all. It's really nice to have all of you here interacting with the speakers and engaging in the session actively. It has been wonderful. Thank you again. Have a good, beautiful night.